district is to not retain unless you absolutely have to, and it's almost difficult to retain. I mean, you know, like my nephew's situation was that he was just on the verge, and it is very, very difficult, in my opinion, from, again, as I said, conversations and different things, to retain. Those teachers are trying to do all that they can to get that kid at the level that he needs to be at to pass the rubric. So I feel like I understand the rigidity that could be seen in this, but I feel like the culture has already been established in our district that we don't retain. Like that's not something that's highly looked upon or like just an everyday thing, you know. It's been my opinion.
These teachers want to help kids,
Yeah.
so they're going to do everything they can to make sure that kids are successful, whether that's working with them themselves, putting them in interventions, or working with parents to see if they can make things.
Did you see a lot of supports the MTSS process, how much we do around that this year to help kids progress and stay on grade level? We've got 5 elementary schools now that are starting Kansas Reading Roadmap summer programs, and we hope we get to continue those in July. And those are things that the interventions that are happening in those programs may help kids reach that point where they are promoted. We'll have after-school programs in those schools starting in the fall when we come back under that program. So I think, David, that's exactly what you're talking about. But it doesn't stop with just the formal program. As Leanne said, the teachers they're spending extra time, extra hours, because their goal is for the student to be able to be ready to move on. But in those instances where they're not there, it comes back to what's the best situation for that student and for all others to help get them where they need to be. So, because nothing's more frustrating than being in school and not be able to do what the other kids are doing around you and being successful. And this is trying to make this decision based on data and the best information possible. And again, I think our results show that it's been working.
I feel like this criteria doesn't come down to just the teacher, you know, giving the kids a test and looking at numbers. I guess what I'm seeing is that the teachers are observing the kids and taking into account the whole setting that they're in and whether that's the best for them. And looking at kids that maybe perhaps weren't retained when they needed to be and how unsuccessful they can also be on that side of it later in school and really struggle versus one that may have been retained at this young age. And yeah, kids will talk about it or they'll kind of be aware of it, but I've seen them be successful later in high school where they would struggle if they would retain. There's both sides of it. And so it's hard, but I think this is set up so the teachers are looking ahead. They're not waiting until the end of the year when these kids are struggling and saying, okay, you need to retain your kid. They're giving parents the opportunity to help, and the teachers are looking for resources to help them. So I really they're preparing the parents so it won't come down to a decision like Mark said, where there's a parent who doesn't know the information and doesn't understand it and simply says, you're not going to hold my kid back just because I don't want you to, or you know, they don't have the information or they don't care to get the information. They're just going to base it on that. And mandatory, it sounds like a harsh word, but hopefully the levels are set low enough that if they are retained as they really need to be. And if this goes through, I hope and I believe that you'll really look at the ones that are retained and, you know, was there a conflict? Did a parent say, well, I don't want that to happen, and did it happen anyway? And, you know, how many of those occur? And if that's an issue, then it needs to be looked at.
Yeah, have we sent the message to all the teachers that we don't want any kid to be retained, so they need to find a way for these kids to all get passed through the rubric. Have we retained kids?
I feel like that message is very clear to teachers in conversations that I've had.
I'm just asking. I don't have kids in school, so
In those
I
situations,
need to ask. I've struggled through school my whole life. I hated school because I struggled. I started school when I was 4 years old. My older sister was retained. I think that was probably a problem for her, and my parents didn't want me to be retained because my sister had problems. So they just kept passing me through every year, and every year I struggled. I hated school from first grade all the way to 12th grade because every class was hard for me. And I probably should have been retained. I probably should have started school when I was 6 instead of 4. But, shoulda, coulda, woulda. That's, and my parents were working parents. They weren't at home to help me read extra at night or do extra math. I didn't have that. And there's a lot of kids like me in our community that we need to remember about. So, that's all I got to say.
Okay, have we said everything that we need to say? Are we ready to vote?
Call for the question.
All those in favor of approving the readiness programs as presented, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Review of board retreat. Dr. Carlin, were you gonna lead us in that discussion?
So first, I think we emailed you last week 3 dates in June. Maybe asked you to give Julianne some feedback. So if you remember to print that off and bring it in and give to her, you get a gold star. If you just tell her before the end of the night, you get a silver star. So
How about I already email her as soon as I got it?
Platinum.
Because I was going, well, yes. I knew I wouldn't bring it.
and then we'll look and see if there's any common dates. And I think we're probably thinking 5:30-ish. We could block out about 3 hours. We'll get some sandwiches, and that'll give us an opportunity to kind of follow up. And I just want to, I'll share with you kind of from my notes, and I won't guarantee these are complete, but kind of the key areas that I heard and where we want to follow up. So there were some things that I would call kind of maybe more long range, and those might be things that we follow up and have more discussion on. Bullying was one, homework was another, technology planning for the future, and I heard how we could do the one-to-one kind of thing or something similar at lower levels and how we could fund that, and drug testing. There's maybe some areas that the board would want to explore and make a determination of, do you want to focus more on an area, on one of those areas in the future. Nice sound effects too. Some things that were a little bit more this year or near time, transportation start times. That is something, and school start times. That is something that transportation, from an efficiency standpoint, it's on our radar to be coming back to when we get back in August. Of course, it won't have any effect for this coming year, but we could be talking to the board about doing some things differently for that for the next school year. More communication, improved communication, specifically using social media more efficiently to help get messages out. That's something that we are working on, and we'll talk about it when we talk about our strategic plan update. Audio for the board meetings, better audio, so it's easier for people to hear. That's something that came out of the conversation that we'll be working on a plan to make that better. And then how district plans align with KSD's direction and vision, and drawing some parallels between our plan and our efforts. One of the big things there will be the accreditation process is gonna help us do some of that. So certainly that was something that we are working on, and you should see some progress on that in the next year. A couple other things that, and I think safety, tornado shelters, that's something that our long-range facilities group will kind of look at and kind of evaluate. All of our buildings have been built to code, but the code changes over time. And so the code in 1958, when George Matthews was built, or whatever it was, probably looks a little different today. So it may be that from a long-range standpoint, we need to look at some upgrades to facilities from that standpoint. That's something that, with the other facility issues they're looking at, that they'll evaluate. More iPads at lower levels. 210 of the iPads that seniors had this year went back into other schools. About 200 of them went to seniors. Maybe a little more. We actually, I think the information I've got is this year we allowed any senior that wanted them to have them, and it was pretty close to 50-50. I mean, they had to buy them. But with the remainder, 210 of them were sent back out to schools. The schools have to buy the card for them, but we provided them the iPad. 420 are being purchased by schools, not counting the high school, for use next year. So they're using some of their cost center dollars to make those purchases. So getting more iPads used at lower levels, that is happening, kind of happening through our normal process. One of the things that was suggested was a change, I think it was on maybe Goal 6.3, change of language to law enforcement. So you should see that reflected in your copy of your strategic plan report we have for you. Access to track, walking tracks and facilities, that's something that we're working on to again, try to make sure that our facilities are available to the public. So those are kind of the key pieces that I pulled out. I think our team kind of heard mentioned at the retreat. So I guess what I would want to do is kind of throw it out to you guys. Is there something else that you heard that night that you want to highlight for us? Is there something that something else that you want on the agenda, or if we can get a time to schedule the other retreat, or maybe is there something on there you don't want on there that you think, oh no, we don't need to talk about that, or do you have questions about any of them? That's what was listed on our side.
Did you say a 3-hour retreat or a 3-day retreat?
Well, bullying, homework, tech plan for the future, and drug testing were the topics that we've talked about. These others, I think we can, I think we heard you. We can address those through what we're doing with our existing strategic plan and in some short-term things, but those 4 areas were kind of, so 30 to 40 minutes on each of those is kind of what I was thinking for a 2 to 3 hour follow-up, give you an opportunity. And I want to caution you too, I mean, all 4 of those are great, but there's only so many of us and so much time in the day, so at some point, if all those sound promising, we may need the board to kind of narrow the focus as to what's the biggest priority, and so we can really put some attention towards that, but that comes as a result of the conversation. So that's what I was thinking. Hopefully we can squeeze that into 2 to 3 hours.
An item I'd like on there, we can always strike it off if we need to, with school finance.
Again, more?
Well, the
You
question
stay
would
after
be-
the.
Yeah, KJ go lunch, a my treat.
Wow.
Fundamentally, if we have a mandate and we're gonna have to deal with it, I am expecting that it will be handled already by the time we get to this retreat. But if it isn't, you know what topic.
Would that be a retreat item or a special meeting item?
Yeah, I want a meeting all to myself.
Yeah.
I used to be a part of something.
The way I would view a retreat is for us to be looking, I mean, not the school finance, we wouldn't be looking forward, but I don't know, I think a retreat should be broader almost and more visionary than, no offense to
Well,
you.
as long as we have a meeting on school finance, I'll be good with it.
Okay.
Another thing that I don't know whether this is really for us, it might be more for curriculum council or something like that, but just having talked to a few kids at the high school, you know, there's still a lot of adjusting going on for their schedule versus their vision and aspiration for their career at the high school. And so I think I'm sure the high school is working on this, you know, to implement that new schedule. But things like, if you've got a mandated PE credit that you've got to cover in your career at the high school, but trying to fit it all in, it's a choice between debate and a PE. Well, if there something like marching band or something like that, that really gets them out there from a PD standpoint, it's sort of thinking outside the box of where are some opportunities to the extent that good curriculum allows it, to do some of that kind of thing.
And that is something that can be run through curriculum council. We have a number of things you can earn PE credit, I think, for JROTC. Something else. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but that kind of thing certainly can be proposed by the high school and it gets run through curriculum council.
So talk to Renee, as opposed to take time to work. That'd be fine.
One baritone and two listens to all my songs. I think.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And we started on the, like a review of the five-year plan, but could we like maybe just kind of maybe have a summary of like what, how, and I know that we got those, but just do any of them tweaking or editing?
Coming up. Oh, that's the next agenda item.
We're gonna, you're not gonna believe how fast we are.
Yeah, boy, you ask and they deliver.
Amazing.
I have one thing that I think might be timely. We're doing those facility meetings right now, and I think safety, that physical safety aspect of it, especially during the storm season area, it might be really helpful to kind of get an assessment or review of the state of that our buildings and the people in them. So that we know, in the facilities committee, what type of expenses we might be looking at, or if we're looking at, just because we have some big decisions to look at pretty soon.
So you see that as a board retreat, or do you think that's something for the facilities?
You know, I would like the board, I think maybe we need to look at what the priority is on all of our buildings safe physically. I know we looked at the Alice training, sort of the intruder or that type of thing, that aspect of security, but I'm more looking at storms or tornadoes or how that, how our buildings are gonna keep our people safe. So if there's something like that, that something that we presented to the board, like, nothing to or
Sure.
That's what I was leaning towards too, just kind of like an end of year, like building evaluation for some.
But specifically on the safety, the storm shelter
Yeah,
safety.
because I think we've kind of covered the other aspect of security, but this aspect, it might impact that some of our buildings are older, I think it might be good to pick up.
Lori, or Jen?
Good.
The only other thing, I was kind of thinking is if we needed to have any more discussion about the calendars, there was a very quick discussion. Are we comfortable with how we left the calendar discussion, for at least for right now? Okay. Then we're fine.
We really need to have residents on that. Okay, like this one.
Oh,
That's a good one.
sorry. Okay, next agenda item. Dr. Carl, will you take us through the strategic plan?
You bet. We'll get started. So, we're gonna do that as a leadership team. There are 33, different goals when you go through under the, or sub-goals, when you add them up under the 3 initiatives and the 8 goals. We're gonna talk to you tonight about 11 of them. Of those 33, we feel like it's 30 of them that we make what we call continuous progress, which is, we think we're kind of on target. There were 3 of them that we felt like we only made limited progress. We didn't make as much progress as we would have liked to have made.
Dr. Cross, may I interrupt you for just a second? I
Sure.
believe you'll need to refer back to this week, so you may know from Friday to get the strategic plan. Sorry, it would have been attached to the agenda.
Okay.
So,
Everybody, if you don't have it, if you can't get it, we can run you a copy too if need be. So certainly if there's any that we don't talk about that you'd like to talk about, we're happy to do that. But we just highlighted some that we thought were of particular interest, and we wanted to make sure that we talked to you about each of the three that we didn't, that we only made the limited progress in. But we're just going to go through them. And the first one that we wanted to highlight and talk about is 1.3.
I assigned 1.3, and that was a little bit of the restructuring of the MTSS/Curriculum Council this year. In the past, that was a huge committee that really wasn't well represented in terms of a diverse group of teachers, and so we changed the format of that committee this year a little bit. So it encompasses 18 teachers, 3 administrators, 3 parents one from every grade level, K4, 5, 8, 9, 12, and then 2 board members who are non-voting. Leanne, Karen, and I were non-voting as well. And the purpose of that committee was really just to get a broader perspective when we're approving different types of curriculum in the district. So, because if the high school makes a decision, really K-8 feeds into that, and so they need to have an understanding. And the high school needs to understand the decisions K-8 are making as well. So I think it put a little more fluency into that process. And then we did continue with having an outside resource come in from KLN who met with MTSS and building leadership teams to discuss progress with Web this year. So that goal was, we felt, continuously making progress. Thank you, Renee.
Next one we want to look at is 2.2.
I've had the pleasure of talking to the board on several different occasions about our personnel needs and what a struggle that's becoming more and more in the last couple of years. So getting candidates to come to Garden City continues to be difficult. Not just a Garden City issue though, not just a state of Kansas issue, but it is a national issue as well. There's just not enough kids going into education, and so we find ourselves competing harder and harder for the same candidates year after year. We mark this down as limited progress, but we do feel like we've done a lot of things, maybe in terms of long-term solutions to the problem. Some of those which are the Grow Your Own program that we have at the high school, and trying to convince kids at that age level to go in to choose education as a career, and having an approved pathway through the state in order to do that has certainly been a big plus for us. And so we've developed partnerships with Fort Hays State, Kansas State University, and Newman University in terms of developing alternative licensure programs, not just for those high school kids and what that would look like for them as they go into maybe doing something virtually where they wouldn't have to leave Garden City to still obtain that degree, but also for people in the community who might have a desire to teach that didn't choose education early on. Kansas State has developed a program now, a transition to teaching program that targets elementary age levels in terms of getting that degree. So we've developed those partnerships. We've got the board to allow us to have the student teaching incentive that we've done, and we've seen some good numbers of that. I think we have 11 student teachers coming for the fall next year, many of those which will qualify for that incentive, and the board will get to see those as those come in and are reviewed. And with that, as a reminder, then there's a 2-year commitment to stay in Garden City. So again, hopefully that offsets some of the open positions that we'll have in the future. And then lastly, our employee referral program. No cost to the district. We got outside funding in order to do that. So we do think we have some good things in place to offset some of the difficulties we have, but they really haven't come to fruition yet. So that's what we marked as limited progress.
I have a question for you, Mr. Cohen.
Yes, ma'am.
Something whenever we talk about all the new initiatives that we're doing to get new teachers here, I invariably run into one of 2 people who ask me, what's going on with retention?
Great question. So we'll be developing a group, if you will, looking at different levels of people that have worked here. Some of the long-term employees and what's been important to them to stay in Garden City, and then looking at a couple of different levels, clear back to new teachers and what made you come to Garden City, what have we done well in terms of giving you support to start I appreciate that, thank you.
So if I could ask a question.
Please.
On that, that's a survey kind of thing? Is that what I heard you?
No, that's, well, it may end up being a survey, but we're thinking that we'll get, like, groups of people together and just pulling people, again, with kind of a wide range of experience, as our staff goes, and just having conversations with them and begin to ask questions. Somebody that's been here for a long time, what made you stay? What's good about the school district? What can we do differently from your perspective? And then looking at somebody who's been here in the middle levels, 3 to 5 years, and again, same kind of questions. So we can look at the totality of our employees to see what do we need to focus on to improve retention in order to get that number down and hopefully offset the number of openings that we have. But historically, that number of positions that we have year in, year out has been fairly consistent. My history here, 20 years in the district, anywhere from 10 to 15% probably in terms of open positions.
So really the question is how do you change that number?
Yes, sir.
And I think hopefully that's where some of our longer term strategies might have a better way to impact that. Thursday I was in Topeka at the commissioners task force on the teacher shortage. So as Mr. Hogan said, this isn't just a Garden City thing now. We're feeling it, Garden, Dodge, and Liberal, we're feeling it before, we're feeling it more than other places in the state, but everybody across the state is feeling the same kind of thing we are, and even beyond the state. Fewer and fewer. In fact, Mr. Ron's going to do a little work for us this summer back in Wisconsin and Michigan, and there's universities up there that are completely eliminating their teacher education programs because it's just not necessary for them. They aren't having enough kids in the program, and so they're just completely doing away with the programs. That's not good news for what we're trying to do. So.
I think are we doing the flip side of that in terms of why are we leaving? That's something we go.
We do. We give everybody an exit survey when they leave. We collect all of those and I review every one of those.
Would it be more helpful to have someone speak on find out what you, what your cause of the reason, and maybe it's a family or you're somewhere that there may be other situations that we can change.
That's a good suggestion, and that may come out of this retention group, that there's some other ways to gather that information. Because typically we get about half of those back. And the 3 main reasons are, want to move back closer to my family, and when we're hiring half of our people from quite a distance, there's a number of people that will be affected by that. Rural life isn't for me, I need to be closer to a major metropolitan area, and the dread that I'm following my significant other for a job transfer, or if they're going back to school or whatever. But those are predominantly the ones that come back on the surveys that we do. But we may have better luck if we talk to them personally, and we may get a better response rate than about 50%. Next one is 2.5.
Graduation and dropout rates. We did mark continuous progress made. If you look in the green section, you're gonna see a slight dip in our overall district total. We dropped from an 80.8 to a 78.8. However, now the Garden City Alternative High School is factored in. I don't wanna look at that as a negative. Actually, they graduated over 60 students. I mean, it's a phenomenal program, but that does affect the overall totals. Garden City High School was up just slightly. But again, this year we graduated over 500 students between both schools, so we have to look at that as progress. That was the highest number ever.
The data here too is a year behind, so
Right.
percentages you're looking at are last year's. That doesn't reflect this year's graduating class. We don't get that information until about October or November, so that's why we're kind of a little behind on the up-to-date numbers. The next one is 3.3.
One of the goals we made limited progress on this year was utilizing classroom walkthrough information to inform our professional development. Several reasons reasons for this. One was that we eliminated several positions with our principals, so they had a lot more to do. We recognize that this is something that's very important to us, though, that we need to make sure that we're getting in there and doing those walkthroughs. We need to make sure what we're looking for is really what we need to be looking at. So we're going to be putting together some committees to really revise our walkthroughs and to make sure that those are happening on a regular basis next year, so that we can use that information with our professional development.
Next one's 3-4.
This is talking about our professional relationships with leading thinkers, researchers, and practitioners in the profession. We're continuing to work with ICLE, which is the International Center for Leadership in Education. We brought in Dwight Carter in August, who was one of our main speakers when we started. We also have 5 schools that will be attending the Model Schools Conference this summer. Eric Schlinger is on the list to come in August. We've also had, though, besides just ICLE, we've worked with Dr. Kearns this year. We're looking at maybe Script coming in next year. So we're trying to respond to the needs assessment that we've done with staff and connect with things that can help them become more effective thinkers, looking at innovation, those types of things.
Next one is 4-4. I'm going to take that one. 4-4 deals with continuing current and expand system for internal communications. Looking for ways to better communicate within our organization. Roy does a good job, but the superintendent needs to do a little better, so that's something that we will, I'll be enlisting his help. My tweeting skills, I don't know if they're a whole lot better than they were at the beginning of the year, but I tried to tweet out a lot of positives and recognize a lot of the good things that were going on this year. And as I've got my feet wet in that, we'll be looking to probably use Twitter to do more than just share the positive kind of things, although we'll continue to do that. So we'll be trying to utilize social media, but also develop some more consistent types of communication that will go out to the staff on a regular basis from the central office. Roy does a good job with the district update, but I think we can keep staff informed on some of the big issues a little more from the administrative perspective through better internal communication.
Like, yeah, just in light of the old school people that still use like websites and stuff, that don't tweet and stuff. I'm to the point where if we're gonna have a website, it needs to be updated or shut down. It's,
We are in that process.
Okay.
We've contracted a company to host and redesign the site. They're working with our technology people, and our target is when we start school in August to have a new website up, and then we're gonna be
regular
emphasizing
updates. The updates is the
keeping
part
stuff
that's
current,
frustrating.
and if
Okay.
you're not gonna keep it current, don't put it out there.
Thank you.
July 1st is the deadline.
Yeah.
11:59 PM, June 30th.
You know, I don't know if this is relevant under this one, but certainly, I mean, email communications, as we ramp up the responsibilities to staff, I mean, the pressure's on. And so, I know in my place, when the pressure's on, the communication becomes more critical as far as timely responses to emails, that kind of thing. And so you're probably on top of it, but it seems like maybe that would fall under the general category of communicating, and I'm old school email, and my kids laugh at me. And so maybe there are other mediums there that are being used, but I think we want to be sure and respond to emails as quickly as possible. The age-old thing. So, not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but just make sure that we're doing as good a job as we can on the age-old stuff.
Next one's 5-1, and that one I'm going to do as well. This is one that we identified as limited progress, and 5-2 really deals with increasing parent engagement. 5-1 really deals with a system to measure it. And while I think we're making progress in what we're actually seeing in terms of our progress, just to be honest with you, we didn't have time to get to 5-1. You know, last year we reduced over 10% of our administrative staff, and unfortunately, coming up with this system, we just topic, so it is something that needs to get done. But I'm gonna defend him because he's had his plate full with other things, and those other things have overshadowed that. And, but I think it's important for people to understand that, just like we said last year when we had to make those cuts, there will be some things that won't get done. And this is an example of one of those things that there just wasn't time for. But there is a deadline from the university, so there'll have to be a way here in the next limited time frame to ramp that priority up, so.
Especially if someone wants a new meal plan.
Exactly.
I would just, from one board member out of that report, there's so much pressure on that position, as we've said before, that if I can be helpful and write a letter to the, for an extension of time, I'd sure be, because I certainly would like to see the personnel stuff concentrated on. I mean, bless him, good job for pursuing that, and it's good information, but boy, that's quite the position right now, and I don't know how he does it.
6-1, I think, is our next one.
Continuing to evaluate and improve the district safety and security plans, we kind of talked about a little bit. Alice was a big component of that this year. All certified and classified staff did the training part of it, and then all certified staff participated in the simulations. And some classified staff chose on their own time to come to those simulations as well. Then, of course, Steve and Roy continue to go out and evaluate the crisis plan. They go out to all 18 buildings and do their drill out there and make sure things are happening well there. And then for this next year, we've added the weather woman liaison who will work with emergency management during that time. She'll actually be present down there to communicate better with the district going on. And that kind of came about from the time when we had the crisis at the end of the day, the weather, and we had people in the buildings, and then you went out to buildings, and some of them came out of the shelters, and just communication wasn't passed on as well. So that was a real good outcome of that, even though we had a little issue. Now we need to have someone there that's communicating directly with the district.
I just want to, as for the Alice training and that kind of safety thing, I just want to communicate that I see that the teachers are learning from it and passing it on to the students, because my kids come home and I don't know how other students are, but my kids are not panicked by it, because we teach that at home too, to protect yourself, and I just appreciate that the teachers are learning that and passing it on to the kids in a way that they're not scared, that they feel confident and willing to do what needs to be done and feel safe in school, so.
And I think it goes beyond school, out in communities, because a lot of these things are not just happening in schools. They're happening out in communities, and so people can be aware of their surroundings and have an idea of what they might do to protect themselves.
Unfortunately, it's a lifesaver.
Yes, I never thought of that.
Who's the weather woman?
Renee.
She's so excited.
So when there's bad weather, you'll go to the,
LEC.
and do, I guess my question would be, so say there's a tornado in our area that's just a block away from here. You're gonna be at the LEC calling back here saying there's a tornado.
Well, I'm already in contact with Gilbert Valerio, the head guy there, so the minute something even is on the horizon, he's making me aware of that. So even if it's, just in Denver at this time, I'm in the know, and we're communicating about their potential, there's a chance for potential warnings, and so which athletic teams are where. We're just communicating so we kind of have a plan in place, so we're not waiting to the last minute for me to run down there and then start calling people. It's like the minute he sends me something, I'm in contact with the high school AD, the middle school ADs. What do you have going on activity-wise, where are kids gonna be, and we're doing a lot of pre-planning for it.
I guess I understand